Friends, today we're going to talk about a book that after reading it makes every person stop before sleeping at night and think, who am I? How did I get here? And where am I going? That book is Sapiens, A Brief History of Humankind by Yuval Noah Harari. This professor is the kind of person who takes the entire 70,000-year story of humanity and tells it in such a simple and fascinating way that you are left wondering, why did nobody tell me all of this before? If you are visiting our channel for the first time, please subscribe right now and turn on the bell icon. Let's begin. First, plant one thought firmly in your mind. 70,000 years ago, in a corner of Africa, there were some ordinary, frightened, hungry animals. And those animals were our ancestors. They were afraid of lions. They could not hunt large animals. They ate only what bigger predators had killed and left behind. They cracked open bones to get to the marrow inside, exactly the way vultures do. They had no kingdom, no country, no civilization. They were just an ordinary animal, no more significant in the world's ecosystem than a gorilla or a zebrafish. And then, in just 70,000 years, which in the timeline of Earth's history is barely a blink, this same family of creatures became the owner of the entire planet. They redirected rivers, broke apart mountains, burned down forests, and have now placed their footsteps on the moon. The question is, what happened? What were those secrets that turned a frightened animal into the master of the entire universe? The answer to that question is what this entire book is about. The first thing Harari teaches us is that we, Homo sapiens, which means wise human, were not the only humans on Earth. This sounds a little strange at first, but listen carefully. When we were arriving on the scene, there were quite a few other humans already living in the world. In Europe and the Middle East, there were Neanderthals. More muscular than us, with larger brains than ours, perfectly built for surviving cold climates. In China and Indonesia, there was Homo erectus, who survived for a full 2 million years, which is a world record that we will probably never break. On an island in Indonesia, there were Homo floresiensis, so small that they stood barely a meter tall, yet they crafted stone tools and hunted elephants, and the elephants there were also miniature. From a single finger bone found in a Siberian cave, a DNA test was conducted and a completely new separate species emerged, which scientists named Homo denisova. So 70,000 years ago, alongside Homo sapiens, there were 5 or 6 other kinds of human beings living in this world. And then, one by one, they all disappeared. And each one vanished around the time we arrived in their territory. The Neanderthals disappeared, Floresiensis disappeared, Erectus disappeared. Harari asks the question directly, what actually happened? And then he gives an answer that is very uncomfortable to hear. He says this was perhaps the first genocide in the history of humanity. Perhaps when we arrived, we destroyed our own distant brothers and sisters because they were too familiar to ignore, but too different to tolerate. Think about this. It echoes the racial violence of our own era, where even today, a difference in skin color or accent makes someone your enemy. And back then, an entirely different species was standing right in front of you. Now we arrive at the single most important idea in this entire story. The secret that Homo sapiens stole from every other species. Harari says this secret was not strength, not size, not a bigger brain, because the Neanderthals actually had larger brains than us. The secret was a kind of language the world had never heard before.
But wait, language exists in quite a few animals. Birds call out, monkeys make one specific sound to say lion and a different sound to say eagle. and the other monkeys immediately react in different ways depending on which call they hear. So what was special about our language? Harari explains that what made Homo sapiens' language truly different was this. We could talk about things that do not exist in the physical world at all. We could create fiction. We could tell stories. We could build ideas. A monkey can tell its companion there is a lion near the food. But no monkey can tell its companion the lion is the guardian spirit of our tribe. That second sentence describes a world in which a particular lion doesn't physically exist. It is a concept, an imagined reality. And this ability to live inside ideas, to share them, to collectively believe in them, this one thing is what carried humanity both toward the heights of angels and toward the depths of monsters. Let's understand this with a simple example. You cannot convince a chimpanzee, no matter how hard you try, that don't eat the banana now because after you die, you will get plenty of bananas in paradise. A chimpanzee understands only what is present right here, right now, in front of its eyes. But a human being can believe in things that neither the eyes have seen nor the hands have touched, things that only the mind has felt. And this ability gave humanity something no other animal ever received, the ability to cooperate with millions of strangers at the same time. Because when everyone believes in the same story, whether that story is "Long live Pakistan" or "God is great" or "This company is worth $5 billion," then all of them can move in the same direction without ever having met each other.
Harari gives one of the strangest and most brilliant examples in the book, the Peugeot car company. What actually is the Peugeot company? It is not its factory. The factory can burn down and the company will still exist. It is not its workers. All of them can die and the company will still exist. It is not its shares. It is not any single building. So where does Peugeot actually exist? It exists only because millions of people simultaneously believe that it exists. It is a legal fiction, a story that some lawyer wrote on paper and the entire world accepted. Exactly the way a Catholic priest says certain special words and a piece of bread becomes the body of God, both are the same psychological process, just with different characters. And then Harari says something that initially sounds wrong, but then keeps spinning inside your head. He says that every major thing humanity has built today runs on this same shared fiction. Money. It is not real. Today, more than 90% of the world's money exists only as numbers on computer screens. No gold, no paper. Yet one person transfers those numbers to another, and that person receives food, shelter, and life, only because both believe those numbers are something. Countries, Pakistan, America, China, these are lines drawn on maps. There is no actual line carved into the ground. Yet people give their lives and take lives for these lines, because there is belief. Human rights. Nowhere on any human body does it say, this person has the right to vote. That too is an idea, a story that humans began writing together over the last 200 years. But on the foundation of belief, it became real. Now we arrive at another enormous idea, the agricultural revolution, which Harari calls history's biggest fraud. This sounds very strange to hear because all of us have been taught that farming, agriculture, civilized human beings, made them capable, moved them forward. Harari says completely wrong. Think about it carefully. Before agriculture, humans were hunter-gatherers. They worked for perhaps 3 to 4 hours a day. They went hunting, picked fruit, then played, slept, and talked. They ate 50 to 60 different things, various fruits, different animals, all kinds of roots and plants. Their health was extraordinary. Then came wheat, and humans thought, more food, we will eat more. But what actually happened? Wheat needed water, so humans got up and carried water. Wheat needed space, so humans spent nights hauling stones. Wheat needed protection from insects, so humans stood guard. The human body was never built for any of this work. Bones broke down, backs hunched, teeth deteriorated, because human skeletons from before the agricultural era are actually healthier than the skeletons of people from after it. So what really happened? Harari says wheat domesticated humans, not the other way around. The Latin root of domestic means of the house, and the one now confined to the house was the human, not the wheat. Wheat extracted labor from humans, tied them to one place, and then spread itself across the entire planet. Today, wheat covers 2.25 million square kilometers, an area 10 times the size of Britain. Wheat won. The human got into considerably more trouble. And then came the luxury trap. When more food arrived, more population followed, more population needed more food, so more farming was needed, so more people came, and going back became impossible. Then agriculture gave one more thing: a home, a fixed place to live, things to accumulate, and then things to defend. And when things need defending, war happens. Hunter-gatherers did not fight over territory because there was no permanent territory. If one place became difficult, you simply moved on. But once wheat was planted in the ground, that land became mine. And if someone else came near it, you drove them away or killed them. Harari says that in farming-based populations, 10 to 15% of men died from war. In some farming tribes in Papua New Guinea, even today, 30 to 35% of men die from war. So agriculture did not bring peace. It brought more war. Then came money, and Harari uses a beautiful, simple example to explain why it was created. Imagine you make shoes and want to get grain from a farmer. You say, "Take my shoes, give me grain." The farmer asks, "How much grain for one pair of shoes?" Now calculate. If just 100 things are being traded in a marketplace, you need to keep track of 4,950 different exchange rates. If there are 1,000 things, that becomes 499,500 rates. And even then, there's a deeper problem. If the shoemaker wants grain from the farmer, but the farmer doesn't want shoes, the farmer wants a doctor. The doctor wants cloth. The cloth maker wants shoes. This chain never aligned smoothly. Money was created because there was a need for a common trust. Cowrie shells served as currency across the world for 4,000 years, simply because everyone had agreed they had value. Today, the dollar bill has just one thing written on it. This note is legal tender for all debts, public and private, meaning this paper has value only because the American government has declared it does. If America ceased to exist tomorrow, the dollar would be a worthless scrap of paper. Then Harari says something about empires that makes many people angry, but he insists on saying it. He says that calling empires simply cruel and evil does not tell the whole story. Yes, Rome caused tremendous destruction. The British Empire committed enormous injustices. The Mughals also used force. All of that is true. But it is also true that people in Pakistan today speak Urdu, which was the language of the Mughal court. It is also true that people across the world speak English, the language of the British Empire. People in Spain follow the Roman Catholic Church, and the first letters of Roman are right there in the name. Meaning, the empire you hate, its language, its architecture, its law, its food, all of it is already inside you. Harari says, every human being today is part of the inheritance of some empire or another. The identity you think of as your own is actually a mixture of thousands of years of conquest, defeat, power, and oppression. Then comes the scientific revolution, and Harari says something astonishing. He says the scientific revolution was not actually a revolution of knowledge. It was a revolution of admitting ignorance. Understand this. 500 years ago, every major religion in the world held the belief that all answers already exist. Everything is in the Quran. Everything is in the Bible. Everything is in the Vedas. All that remains is to understand. There was no need to find new answers because if God had not told us something, it meant we did not need to know it. In Europe, if someone asked, "How does a spider weave its web?" the priest would say, "There is no need to ask this. It is not in the Bible, therefore it is not necessary." But then a moment came when certain people said, "We do not know." Those two words, "we do not know," were the single greatest turning point in civilization. When you admit you don't know the answer, only then do you begin to search for it. And when they began searching, the microscope appeared, the telescope appeared, the laws of physics appeared, and then one day the atomic bomb appeared too. That was the scientific revolution. Then Harari explains that science did not travel alone. Empire and capitalism walked alongside it. European empires funded scientists, explore the world, find new resources, give us better tools to conquer new territories. Scientists gave them better guns, better ships, better maps. And capitalism gave the belief that there will be more in the future, so invest today. These three together became an engine that transformed the entire world in a single century. Before Columbus, European maps had written across large blank areas, terra incognita, unknown land. This is a remarkable thing. The European world was admitting its own ignorance right there on the map, and that is precisely why it went out to explore. Chinese maps showed only China and the surrounding area. There was no unknown territory left to explore. That is why China did not conquer the world. Europe did, simply because Europe admitted, "We don't know." Then Harari raises the question of happiness. And this question is the soul of this entire book. He says that historians never asked, "Did people become happier?" They wrote about politics, economy, war, religion, but never about happiness. And that was a profound mistake. Think about it. If everything was progress, then people should also have become progressively happier. But are they? Research shows that a lottery winner returns to their original level of happiness within a few weeks. A person who loses a hand returns to their previous average happiness level within about a year. Money helps up to a certain point, and beyond that it does not. And then Harari says something strange but true. Buddhism and modern psychology say the exact same thing, just in different words. Buddhism says suffering does not end by changing the external world. It must end from within. Psychology says happiness has a set point that is fixed in biology. Whatever the external circumstances, a person returns to that same point. Meaning, Homo sapiens, despite all its extraordinary power, has still not found the formula for genuine happiness. And the final and most powerful section of the book is the end of Homo sapiens. Here, Harari says something that keeps turning inside your chest long after you've read it. He says, for 70,000 years, natural selection was in charge. Nature itself kept deciding who would live, who would die, which species would flourish, which would disappear. But today, for the first time, something is happening that has never happened in 4 billion years of life on Earth. Humans are breaking natural selection itself. A Brazilian artist paid a French laboratory and had a glowing green rabbit created. A jellyfish gene was inserted into a rabbit, and the rabbit now glows in the dark. Nature did not do this. A human being did. This is intelligent design. Scientists increased the memory of mice 6-fold by altering genes. Voles, a mouse-like species, are naturally monogamous. Scientists found the specific gene that makes them monogamous. Harari asks, if one gene can improve a mouse's memory, if one gene can make a vole faithful, then what is stopping us from running this experiment on human beings?
And then Harari says something truly staggering. He says humans may actually be able to bring back the Neanderthal, thanks to the work of Harvard professor George Church. The complete Neanderthal genome has already been mapped. If Neanderthal DNA were inserted into a human egg, then for the first time in 30,000 years, a Neanderthal could be born. Some women have already volunteered for this. Harari leaves you with the question, is this the right thing to do? Would we be repaying a debt for having wiped them out, or would we use them as factory labor? And in the final paragraph, Harari writes something that is the essence of this entire book. He says, 70,000 years ago, Homo sapiens was a poor, ordinary animal in a corner of Africa. Today, it is the owner of the entire earth and stands on the threshold of becoming God, mastery over death, the power of creation, the ability to reshape the entire universe. But across this entire story, have we reduced suffering on earth? Have we treated other animals with justice? No. And today, when we are about to become dissatisfied gods, owners of powers who do not know what they actually want, what could possibly be more dangerous than this? Friends, Sapiens is not just a history book. It is a mirror placed right in front of your face. It shows you that the nations you would die for, the money you chase after, the rights you speak of, all of these are imagined stories that humans collectively created and collectively chose to believe in. This is not a weakness. This is humanity's true power, that it can build stories and cooperate with millions of strangers because of them. But alongside this, the book reminds you that the same human being who once ate bone marrow is today sitting in front of nuclear buttons and still has not found the formula for happiness. The power arrived. The purpose is still being searched for. If you enjoyed this summary, please like this video, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon. And do one more thing. Write in the comments which single idea from everything in Sapiens is currently circling inside your mind. Thank you for giving this entire video your full attention. See you in the next one. Until then, look around you. Whatever seems real, it is all part of some story. And you are both its writer and its reader.